Hello everyone. In this lecture, this presentation, Jesus Course Part 2, we'll look at the third course of Jesus. Jesus was crucified because of rejection of the people, but he returned in his resurrection, and he appeared on the earth for 40 days. This was actually the third course in the foundation of faith. The central person was the spiritual Jesus after his death. The condition was his resurrection. He appeared on the earth for 40 days, and he was re-inspiring the disciples who were lost faith, many of them. Peter denied him. Many, in fear of their lives, were in hiding. But this Jesus who came back, it was not the physical body, actually. When you read these passages in Luke 24, verse 15 to 16, two disciples on their way to Emmaus, Jesus suddenly appeared to them. And Jesus talked with them. But they didn't recognize it was Jesus. John 20:19, Jesus appeared suddenly behind locked doors. So Jesus was appearing and disappearing. It wasn't the same Jesus during his physical lifetime. John 20:14 to 16, Mary Magdalene mistook Jesus for the gardener. So it wasn't exactly the same Jesus at all. Now in Acts 1:3, it states, he presented himself alive to them after his suffering by many proofs, appearing to them during 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of God. So this was Jesus' condition at that time, the foundation of faith. The foundation of substance, of course, was the spiritual Jesus in the able position and the disciples in the Cain position. They had to unite totally with Jesus at this time for the foundation of substance, for the foundation to receive the Messiah. Now the way of complete salvation sadly was lost due to the death of Jesus and the rejection of the people. The way of complete salvation, people would have to unite totally with Jesus, with their spiritual body and physical body. Become one with Jesus. Like Jesus often said, you have to become one with me. I'm the vine, you are the branches. But sadly, this didn't happen. When they rejected Jesus, there was no salvation at all. Satan was in a position where he could take all humanity. But Jesus died on the cross. He paid the price that that enabled him to resurrect. And then he opened the way of spiritual salvation. It means people who could completely become one with Jesus from this point on, they received spiritual salvation. And the resurrection was the victory for God. Jesus opened a realm in the spiritual world inviolable by Satan. But Satan still claimed the realm of the physical world. He still has dominion over this. So the cross was a victory for Satan. So this now, at the time of the second coming of Christ, the new central person would be either the new John the Baptist for the foundation of faith, or it is possible, like the time of Jesus, that John the Baptist would fail his mission. And then LSA means the Lord of the Second Advent, the second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ himself may have to stand in as a central person. And there should be some condition set based on the number 40. And the foundation of substance would be the new John the Baptist and the Christians. New John the Baptist in the able position and the Christians in the Cain position. Or it could be, as I mentioned, the second coming of Christ, the Lord of the Second Advent, become the able position if the new John the Baptist fails. And then even the Christians, Jesus warned, even the Christians will lose faith, will not believe in the Lord of the second advent. In this case, Christ at that time will have to reach out to other people, a third Israel. Christians often call the second Israel, but even they may fail. So a third Israel, Christ may need to reach out to other people to follow him. And the national course, if we go back now, look at the national course to restore to Canaan, when Moses lived his whole life to lead the people to Canaan, but he couldn't enter it, basically, at the end. And it was actually Joshua who made the complete entrance. God said to Moses, "You will not enter yourself, you will see it, but you will not enter it, but Joshua will lead the people in." So Joshua made the complete entrance. So in the world course to restore Canaan, Jesus brought spiritual salvation. But the completion of Jesus' work will actually happen at the second coming of Christ. That's why Jesus promised he will come again. By coming again, it will be the Lord of the second advent who will complete that with a complete entrance. That's why Moses, he was in Deuteronomy 3 verse 25, he was pleading with God if he could enter the promised land. But God said, "No, you can't do it, but Joshua will." Likewise, Matthew 26:39, Jesus, he was pleading with God. I mean, he did not die. This is often misunderstood. People often think, well, Jesus, he had some human weakness. No, not at all. If Jesus suffered the most miserable death, he was prepared to do anything. But he didn't want to die in that stage, leaving God's will unaccomplished for another 2,000 years. He wanted to bring complete salvation at that time. But God said, "No, you won't be able to do that this time. It will be accomplished in the future, at the time of the second coming." So he would achieve only spiritual salvation. We'll look now at the three courses, briefly, of Moses. And they follow a certain pattern. The first course ended in failure, if you remember, when Moses killed the Egyptian, and the people misunderstood this, and they could not unite with Moses. The second course went in the wilderness. Many conditions, like the tabernacle was established, symbolic object of faith. But the Israelites repeatedly fell into faithlessness. And in the end, there was a spying condition to restore this, but only two spies, Joshua and Caleb, kept faith in God in the tabernacle. But all the Israelites died. All those who were born in Egypt died. All the first generation perished. Only Joshua and Caleb and the second generation. But they could enter the promised land centered on Joshua. That's why Moses passed on his mission to Joshua, and Joshua was the one who led them into Canaan. Now we look now at the world course centered on Jesus. We saw that John the Baptist failed. He failed. He didn't live up to his testimony about Jesus, and he went his own way. And so he didn't have faith in Jesus. So Jesus himself had to take up the mission as the central person. And as we've seen, it's very, very hard for a person to testify about himself. Jesus was not supposed to take on that mission, but he did, and it was a very difficult course. The people repeatedly did not believe him, and they persecuted him. And in the end, he died on the cross. Even the disciples struggled to believe in him at the end. He died on the cross, But he realized spiritual salvation, and the disciples restored their faith. They become completely one with Jesus. But sadly, they could not experience complete salvation at that time. That's why Jesus said he will come again. And so that Jesus' mission is passed on to the Lord of the second advent, the second coming of Christ. And he will lead them to Canaan, or the world Canaan, would be the kingdom of heaven on the earth. If you remember, God's purpose was to realize his lineage on the earth. And it's not realized by Adam and Eve, who fell. Jesus could not realize that through his death. So therefore that would be completed by the Lord of the second advent. He will realize God's lineage on the earth. And who will follow the Lord of the second advent? They should be the secondary Israel with the Christians. But as I mentioned, the Christians could very well not believe in the Lord of the second advent. They may believe in Jesus, but then they will not be prepared and open to accept the Lord if he comes again by birth on the earth, because obviously this will be a new person. In this case, then the Christians may fail, therefore a third Israel, new people, may be the ones who will follow Christ at that time. So you can see it's a very interesting parallel between the two sets of courses. And Moses' course, or the national course, was to lead people from Egypt to Canaan. Now this was an external distance. They had to cross over the desert, but their trials they had to keep faith in Moses, keep faith in God, keep God's words, keep the commandments, keep faith in the tabernacle, to do this. But their trials, they had to do this through this period of time until they reached Canaan. Now the world course, centered on Jesus, is not an external distance, it's an internal distance. It's from the satanic world to the heavenly world. So it should be a transformation of their lives. But the principles are the same. They had to completely keep faith in God, completely believe in Jesus, totally. And then Jesus, and eventually it will be the second coming of Christ, it will lead us to the heavenly world, which will be established on this earth, but the kingdom of heaven on the earth. That's why even Jesus told us to pray in the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Kingdom of heaven is supposed to be realized here on the earth. So this actually is the whole course of the world course will be realized and fulfilled through the second coming of Christ. Jesus lived his whole life for this. He died at an early age when he was only 33, but it will be completed by the second coming of Christ. We'll look in the next presentation at the parallels of history, and this shows us the 2,000 year period from Abraham until Jesus came, and then from Jesus, his resurrection time, to the time of the second coming. We see incredible parallels, and this will enable us to understand more clearly what Christ should do at that time, how he will come. So we'll continue this then in the next presentation, the parallels of history. Thank you very much.